Welcome to episode 419 of the Tilehurst podcast. Myself and Ross are back for another episode in the series, this ongoing series of podcasts. And the club has officially been sold. This is the first one we've done with official confirmation, officially, that the official club has been officially sold to Rob and Todd.
Officially, which is amazing. Yeah, and I didn't have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to celebrate this time, so that's also a positive, which I very much appreciate. Yeah, it's all done and dusted. You've already bumped into the man Todd, right?
Yeah, I bumped into him a couple of weeks ago. Gave him a TTE business card.
Nice,
so
nice. Ben is if you see Ben. Sorry, I was just going to say, if you see Ben at the Whitley Bowl, which I know it's going to be a little while now, or the Purple Turtle or wherever he hangs out, I don't know, or his job, ask him for a business card because he does. He's the one who really carries them around. Sim and I are rubbish. I mean, who am I going to give them to anyway? But you're the one who's actually putting in the work in Royal Berkshire.
I went to, I'll name check it. I went to the Asda garage in Pangbourne today. So local people know Pangbourne's the next village up. And I used the Costa machine and I put a little card there. So if you're in the Asda garage and you go to Costa machine and it's still there,
that's actually a good series. You should keep leaving them around the place, and then if people find them, just tweet at us or Blue Sky or email, whatever whatever it is that you do, send us a message to say that you found one of Ben's rogue business cards that's been sitting around the place.
Double barreled, the brewery. Well, everyone knows double barreled in Reading, but it's the brewery nearest to me.
Okay.
As the Swan swims literally down the river.
Yeah.
They've got a cork pinboard and I put 3 on there, so hopefully they're still there as well. I'm just leaving them around. I keep them in my car. It sounds really sad.
It sounds good. It sounds like an old school. You find an old school message board. Like a nice what's it, pin board? Is that what you call it?
That's what it is.
Yeah. Find one of those. Still find them. You know where you get them a lot over here is diners. I love a diner.
IHOPs.
Oh, an IHOP is like a diner chain, but basically it's okay. It's fine. I go to other diners, but that's one of that's one of the things that you get.
Maybe I should send you a batch.
A batch, yeah. All right, and I can take them to IHOP. And
you just put them all over the highway or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
be safe.
Very good use of highway there. I appreciate that. Yeah. American owners now, we've got to show that we can translate the language for them. I am, as we said on Blue Sky yesterday, the American whisperer. So, yeah.
Exactly. And we're all New Orleans Saints fans, right?
Well, hang on a minute. No, that I can't get on board with. Yeah, no, I'm not. I actually don't mind the Saints. The Saints are kind of a fun team. They play in a great arena, and actually, genuinely, if you guys are sports fans, if you're listening to this, you like sports stories and things like that. This story, and you can find lots of old documentaries and things on YouTube about the Saints winning the Super Bowl the year that Hurricane Katrina just devastated New Orleans. Is really, really interesting. I know that it kind of happens. It's not an American only thing. It's like a human condition thing. There's just something about the way that I don't think it's a good thing, but the way in which tragedy motivates people. I know, for instance, when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, the Red Sox won that year. The Bruins got really close that year as well. So there's just I'm not saying that, it would be great if a tragedy happens because it'll really motivate, the team or whatever. But it is interesting noting how teams often react to that kind of thing.
That hurricane was the one that I read about where basically sharks were swimming up the rivers where the crocodiles were, the alligators or whatever. Yeah. And they were basically scrapping for survival. I thought that just blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah. There's definitely Todd and Rob. I'd be actually interested to ask them who's seen more alligators, because both of them will have seen plenty of alligators in their time on this planet. But anyway, I digress. We're well away from Reading Football Club at this point.
Yeah, it's a ridiculously rambling intro, but it is episode 419. We are thankful to our sponsors, benefactors, ZZ Films. We're thankful to you guys who are listening again. I say again, we've kind of picked up a few more listeners recently, some in very high places, I have to say. It's very, very high places, and more of that to come, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. But look, we're grateful for you guys tuning in. We're going to get straight into the official retained and released list after this short break.
Be loud and be proud and back the boys and make some noise. Come on, you Oz!
Shout out to this week's podcast sponsor, ZCZ Films, showing that age is no barrier to being a hula hoop.
Right, welcome back to episode 419 of the Tilehurst podcast. Last week, if you listened to it, we gave our own predictions and our own feelings on the what we thought the club were going to do in terms of the out of contract players. Yep. You would have seen the list that came out earlier on last week. And I'm going to recap it very quickly because
nicely
there has
out
been
before June, by the way. Just like great that it is out already, like out pretty quickly. I thought so. Yeah,
exactly. Options activated. I mean, well, the first one was really contentious. Kamara, and then under 21s, Joseph Barrow, Boyd Beecroft. Even he was good when I saw him the other week. He was really good. Tom Norcott, Matthew Rowley. Nice. So they are automatically enrolled into the next season. They will stay with us for another season. They're under contract. Contract offered. First team players: Michael Craig, Jarrell Dorset, Long Kelvin, Kanu and Benge, Joel Pereira, Rashisha. He caused a bit of a rupture in terms of people questioning that one. Michael Stickland, Basil Tuma. It's Tuma season now. All in on Basil Tuma next year. Jaden Wareham and Andy Yeardon. They were all offered contracts, and talks regarding new contracts with the club are currently ongoing. Under 21s, Jacob Borgney, John Clark, JOP, so that's Jeremiah O'Kine Peters, for those that don't know, John Ryan and Shay Spencer, and then under 18s, Ashkar Ahmed, Carter Bowdry, Philip Dewar, Sam Harrison, Luke Howard, and Josh Welland, which leaves the released list. Adrian Akunde, I was surprised at that one.
Well, we can go into it a little bit, but yeah, I overall finish the release list real quick, and then we can drop back onto that.
Kanaya Boyce Clark, David Button, Tom Carroll, Harley Dean. Doesn't look like he's staying with the club at all in any capacity at this stage.
Yeah.
Louis Holzman, and then under 21s, Jack Senga Ngoyi, Charlie Wellens. Under 18s, Verrill George, James Charlotte, Kai Source. Very interested to see Kai Source leave, and I thought he was all right when I saw him.
Charlie Wellens has been released just because Leyton Orient made the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, a vengeance.
The Wellens family, get them out of here. You know.
Yeah.
No, still, Richie Wellens did an outstanding job this season. Sorry, carry
on. End of loans. Tyler Binden.
Yep. Bad.
Billy Bowden and Big Chem Campbell. So, Ross, where do you want to start with those guys?
I do want to start with, I think, Akande and Senga being the ones that were released, I think, are the most notable. I think some people might say Holzman being released is somewhat notable too. I think, though, that overall, just like based on the conversation we were having last week, this list is kinder than I expected it to be. And it might be because our squad is not that big. But you and I kind of worried / wondered if that's it for Yeardom now. He's on his way out. We weren't 100% sure about Rashisha, and there were a few others in there, and especially in the youth ranks and things like that. We weren't sure if they'd continue through. But I think the thing that stands out for me more than any individual name, and maybe we can go back onto any individuals in that. But the thing that actually stands out most for me is how few people are on that release list. And it will get bigger. There will be more people who have been offered a contract that don't end up signing it and end up leaving. But it is to me, that was the most notable thing about the release list, was it's not that big. So yeah, I guess Adrian Akande maybe a little bit unlucky to be released on there, and Holzman as well. I think those are maybe the two, and Senga that are in there that are potentially the most surprising. But I don't think, I think, to be honest, if the rest of the list wasn't relatively kind, I wouldn't expect them to be in there. I was kind of I was more out on Akande than Kamara, for example, last week. And I'm a little bit surprised that Kamara's got a new contract offered or whatever. But I think to be honest, all of those players I could understand releasing. I'm almost surprised the list isn't a little bit larger, just because I would have thought, the new ownership and everything would want to start, bringing in a bunch of extra players or whatever. But you know what? I could just be wrong, because the team is so small. Like, the roster's not that big, because we just don't have that many players that aren't also registered to the U18s or the U21s. So it might just be that we just didn't have that much, any chaff to cut. And I don't think there's too many players on that retained list that are overly surprising. I think Kamara is, the one that you can debate. But I think Hunt likes Kamara, so it doesn't surprise me too much. I thought it was a good signal of intent to actually try and keep some important players around. And I think that the decision to keep Yeardom around, for example, that kind of speaks to me about the intent of keeping some recurring things about the club going. Now, I don't necessarily think Yeardom will be captain next season. I think that'll probably end up being passed over to Wing, who is on the field for pretty much every game he's fit for. But I'm still happy to see a new ownership group come in and at least give Yeardom the respect of a new contract offer. It may be that the contract offer is not enough to get him to sign it. I don't know, obviously. But I think it's good to have like a new ownership group come in and understand the importance, and approve a contract being given to a player who, while, like we spoke about last week, has had kind of like ups and downs in his tenure as captain. I do think that I don't know. I just think that Yeardom's put in the work for the club at times. Like I think they, like we talked about last week, I won't rehash it all, but we went through a really tough time with him as captain, and he hasn't become as controversial a figure as Liam Moore, for example. And so I think that kind of shows that he has at least handled some of it with grace. Maybe be interesting to see how it would have happened this season if, he had been fit the whole season and, he's trying to have to hold on to a place as well as be the captain. But yeah, yeah. So I guess that's my rambly thoughts about the retained list. Any individual?
No. I think it's a good point, actually, because they could have come in and just burned it all down and gone, right. Everyone's out.
Right.
We'll start again. But and this kind of leads us into the next thing we were going to talk about, and we're not going to rehash every soundbite or quote that the new ownership group have given. And it's mainly around Joe Jacobson, who is the CEO, sharing CEO responsibilities, and Rob Coig as kind of joint owner with Todd. But they could have come in and gone, that's it, everyone's out, we're going to buy all these new players. They've said very clearly that they're going to toe the financial line, and they're not going to put the club in jeopardy, or indeed, I guess, their own finances in jeopardy by doing that. And I think that makes sense. There wasn't, as we've said time and again this season, there hasn't been too much wrong with the team other than there's been no depth. Of course, there's been games where we haven't played well, players haven't played well at times, but the bulk of the team overall has performed pretty well. So it doesn't make sense to just rip it up and start again. We were this close, 3 points to get in the playoffs over Leyton Orient. So, it's an interesting statement of intent without actually doing anything drastic. And I think what will be quite interesting as we head into June, because there is obviously a deadline for signing contracts before they become a free agent. Is it the 1st of June, or is it? I don't know.
I thought it was the 30th of June. So they had a while. Yeah, they still, which is part of why I was saying, I'm actually kind of impressed they got this done. I got this retained list out this quickly, because they only came in a few days before the retained list came. Wasn't it almost the same day? I don't even remember.
Yeah, well, it was they were announced on the 14th, and then the retained list came out on the 16th, I think.
Yeah,
so it takes 2 days.
That's
quick.
Obviously, the recruitment department and the first team coaching staff would have a huge part to play in that. So they probably had it ready to go when he arrived, but they have to still take it to him, get it approved and all that kind of stuff. And to me, it getting done that quickly, Cohig maybe has been looking at it already over the last couple of weeks or whatever, but it shows trust in the coaching staff, I think, to get that out quite so quickly. Because as some people were saying online, you can't really start your summer business until that retained list is out. So got it done nice and quick.
Certainly when Sellers came in, he didn't really have an opportunity to mould the squad, A, because there was no money, but B, because that list came out so late. Last year was a similar sort of picture. It wasn't as quick as it was this year. So I think overall it's been a very, apart from the obvious fact the club's been officially sold, it's been a very, very positive week for the club. And I think and I haven't, if I'm honest, I haven't listened to every single interview that both the guys have done, purely because
there aren't enough minutes in the day. They've done a lot.
Well, yeah, there is that,
Yeah.
but also like when you've listened to one, it's kind of similar, But what they've said and what I've heard, sounds good. It sounds positive, But ultimately, none of that means anything if they don't follow it through with action. So I think it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks in terms of the player side of it.
Yeah.
But also the overall makeup of the team and of the club, in terms of off the pitch and people that they're bringing in. They brought a new director on today, Alex Lundberg, I believe his name is, or Alec Lundberg.
Okay.
So there's all these different things at play here, and I think it's exciting to be in a situation where people are arguing over which players should have stayed and which players shouldn't have stayed, and that's kind of like the normal football vibe, in terms of where we're at. I think the key thing, and we talked a little bit about this last week, but based on the fact now that the club has been sold, what for you are the kind of priorities that they need to be focusing in on? Away from the obvious in terms of the playing squad, what else should they be doing sort of in the immediate future to bring people back on side?
I think I actually meant to talk about this last week and I didn't. So this is actually a good time to... Sorry, I was checking my mic there. I'm in the meditation room. It's very. I'm at the office today, so it's a bit of a weird podcast if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, I didn't mention this last week, and I should have mentioned it. But something I would do is I would make sure that the academy staff are still in place, like the current academy staff, and then complement them with a few extra staff members, where needed to actually like help them out. And I think I guess I used this word complement last week too, to mean like complement the coaching staff. And I think that in my head, I thought that I was referring to the academy as well. But I think that, there are a lot of eyes on them right now. And the retain list was like, kind of like a first chance for us to see, where their priorities lie in terms of squad construction. But I also think that a lot of fans have it in their head that the academy is something that may have to change under the current ownership group, whether that's correct or not. And I think that making some positive additions or things that are just good, easy PR and stuff like that around the academy, providing the academy with more more resources, I think would be something that would really help their image early on. I mean, Coeg's finally got Bearwood, right? He's finally got it, so he must have plans for it. He's been planning to have that place for so long. Do you know one thing I would do? And I would genuinely our the club media department are starting to get a little bit more, resources as well and stuff like that. Genuinely, all of the stories of things that have been bad over the last few years, I would spend the summer sort of marketing around those. So like, can we turn the tennis ball into something kind of like fun for this era as well? Like, don't throw it on the pitch, but like, can we take those tennis balls and make them a part with the meals? Do you remember like the meals?
Just make them blue.
Just
make them blue and white and put the badge on.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Like, I genuinely, I think they could genuinely like sell tennis balls with like blue and white on them. Yeah, with like I survived the Die Young era. They're not going to do that.
No, don't do that because that's going to be our mugs.
You're right. Sorry, I don't want to take away from our mugs, but yeah. I do think and then so like just reverse the bad stories from the last few years. Genuinely, like I do think that just like if you can just get, I know people can see through PR, but like. I do think that if you just keep showing that you're trying to solve things that have been brought up as embarrassing issues for Reading over the past few years, I would genuinely make a fuss about the meals they are serving the players at like Bearwood and stuff like that. Because if you remember last year, there was a point where they were eating like microwave meals or something like that because all the kitchen staff had to be made redundant. I would genuinely do like media stuff about how great the food is and everything for like the players and stuff now. Like,
what about a sponsorship deal with Whole Foods?
Well, yeah, there you go. I love Whole Foods. I love Whole
It
Foods.
just writes its own script,
It
right?
really, really does. I thought you said Whole Foods, and I was going to briefly mention that Ruben has been relieved of his duties in Hull.
Who?
We're on that.
Never heard of him.
I know you're not a fan, but God, that did not work out for him, did it?
Didn't.
No. So yeah, look, I know that all sounded like very like silly PR marketing nonsense that people can see through, and I get that, but like I think my wider point is take the things that have been embarrassing for the club over the past few years and like take ownership of them, like make them your own. Like show the reverse, show what is happening now, show what is the change and why this is better. And I think that will go a long way. I think that getting out of the way of the academy staff and, out of the way of Brian Carey and the scouting department and all that is the best thing they can do, as shown by, the fact that our recruitment over the last 2 years has been better than it was for the previous 10 years. So I would they've proven they know how to recruit, get out of their way, focus on solving the little club things, like the stadium manatees that need cleaning that we talked about last week, the big poles that come off the top of the stadium. If anyone wants,
I love the fact people are looking for the pod, or they might have been and gone, right, well, Tyler said, what's this? Stadium manatees? What's that about?
Yeah, stadium manatees.
Just idiots talking nonsense and, whatever.
You mentioned, by the way, that they picked up a few more listeners recently, which you're right. And we've always had a really consistent group of you, which is just amazing. We really appreciate you guys listening to us.
Yeah, we do.
The Robbie Savage interview really popped off. That was actually the most popular episode of the season. More popular than Ruben, more popular than Noel. Anything like that. It's just remarkable. Yeah, he was great. Anyway, we've talked about that already.
Yeah, we did. It was a good one. They're all good ones in a way. They've all got their own market in some respects.
Yeah, all got their own market.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the only way is up now. Surely it's not all going to be, Pluth. I was going to say smooth sailing. Where am I getting Pluth?
You think we're going to get a Wrexham boost out of it now? Because that's the thing again. I just said it sounds ridiculous. I'm talking about marketing and little PR wins that you can get. But Wrexham, look at what they're doing through marketing as much as what they're doing through having the money and stuff like that. It is remarkable what they've been able to do in that regard. There's a lot you can do with that.
It is. I think we have to say it, guys. I think part of Wrexham's appeal is that they have two very well-known celebrities running them.
Yeah.
So I don't think, with all due respect to Rob and Todd, that they're going to be, on that level. And, I'm good with that. And I think we're probably potentially getting carried away with it. I think really the time to look at how well they've done is a year from now, and just really say, look, what have we achieved in a year? What does the club look like? Almost park the on-pitch stuff. They've talked about wanting to improve the match day experience, which I think is a really good start, and I recently filled in, and as I'm sure a lot of other people did listen to this, the kind of end of season survey that the club put out, and it took me a while because I was trying to be respectful of how well a lot of the employees have done in this period of time, because they have, and we've said that time and again, but also actually trying to suggest things that could easily be done, in my opinion, in terms of concrete stuff. So I think it's going to be interesting over the summer in terms of the.
I'm actually wait. Can I stop you there? Because I'm actually interested in your thoughts on that. For you as someone who goes to the games much more often than me, obviously. What do you want? And I'll just preempt with I've recently I'm finally a season ticket holder at a football club again, and I've been going to games in Portland, which is awesome, and I love it. They're doing a great job, and being a season ticket holder is great because it gives you that little bit of freedom, knowing that you're going to be at every game, to take a bit more time during the games to wander around, go and experience what's going on. So what would you want, I guess, added to the experience?
I think one of the positives this season has definitely been the Purple Turtle stage.
Yeah.
Again, I could be critical of the position, but the last game was a bit of a one-off in terms of that many people watching it. But that's been done on very limited resources. So that's a real positive because it adds another dimension to it. And I think just like when you go anywhere else, you want options. You want to be able to go, do I go to this bar? Do I go to the hotel? Do I go to Jazz Cafe? Do I, stand in the fan zone and have a pint there or whatever and watch, whatever local band is on the stage, for example.
Yeah.
I think one of the kickers for me has always been the food offering. So when we had Blue Collar there, and kind of people like Anonymous and Veggievores and all those sorts of people, it made the whole match day a lot more exciting. So, like, I wonder what I'm going to eat today. Like what, and food's always a big part of what I do. Like, I've been to NFL games in this country and obviously I was going to say abroad in America. And the big part of that was food. Like, it was like, wow, what options have we got here?
American food at games is expensive, but there's often really good options.
There is, and it's the same with the stadium in terms of what the offering is there. In terms of what, the hot dogs have been fantastic, but they're generic hot dogs.
Yeah,
there's nothing uniquely Reading about that. So I think the food is a huge part of it in terms of trying to bring a bit more money in, but also kind of improving the match day experience there. I think there needs to be a concrete link between what the community trust do on very limited resources on match days with what the club do, and kind of making that a more regular thing. The family stand or the family area needs to look like a
finish
family
this
stand.
up, and I'm going to jump off that because I have family ideas as well. But carry on.
Like for me, the mascots need to be there every single game.
Yeah.
So the three of them need to be at the game every single game.
Yeah.
Because that's a big part of what the kids love. It. Kids love photos, get them signed stuff. Mess around with them. Whatever.
Yes.
But do you know what I mean? Like all those little things.
Do you know? I was just going to jump in because I know exactly what you mean. Because I was really lucky at the Hearts game this weekend. I was on the pitch at halftime doing a Ben. Because
I love that.
Yeah, it was great. Cool. It was actually super sweet. Like, I got to take my boys who I coach onto the field to play, the little minis game at halftime. And when I found them, like, they have this big fan section on one side where like the kids can go in. There's like a bunch of like football themed like bouncy castles and things like that. But like when I found like my boys, they were all playing with the mascot. They were all trying to teach the mascot like different words and things like that. And I see the mascots kind of a little bit silly, but like, I'm like, oh yeah, if you're that age, like it works for you, like a mole Santa, So yeah, the other thing I'd like to see is we have this incredible academy. We now have these players playing in the Champions League who have been through our academy, and Elise and Gittins. Elise's made pretty much every Bundesliga team of the season. Has been named player of the season in some circles in the Bundesliga. I would be trying to kind of like show people who have very young children like where the pathway starts with Reading and stuff like that. Like, it would be great to like have some activities out. Like I was saying, with the Hearts of Pine games, they always have these kind of like bouncy castles for football out and things like that. But just having like more stuff for the kids to do, while the parents are running around getting their programs, getting the tickets sorted out, like getting all that kind of stuff. It'd be great to have the kind of like more stuff for the kids to do. But then jumping off from that, I think you can that gives an opportunity for the people who coach in the academy at a very, very young level to speak directly with members of the community who might have kids who are, potentially going to go on and develop. I know that in the UK versus the US, over here in the US, we're not quite as urgent about getting them into like an elite environment right away, because kids over here play lots of different sports until they're like 14 years old, honestly. But at the same time, I do think that I just think it'd be interesting to get like, the really young levels of the academy in, just to see, just to give the parents a sense of what it would take for their child to end up, in the Reading Academy at a very young age. I think that'd be really interesting, and it'd be exciting, for the kids and the parents to get to talk to people from the academy. So I think doing some sort of kids zone and really focusing on the kids again. And then if you want to make it, like even more exciting, maybe try and get the academy involved a little bit.
Halftime's a big thing as well, whether it's, getting engagement there. And I think what I want to do when I walk into the concourse is go, this is Reading, right? And, really, I can't remember where it was. It might have been West Brom. Basically, I brought a pie, love pie, and they'd put, like that edible rice paper that you get on like fairy cake sometimes.
I'm wondering if it is edible, but sure.
Well, yeah, but
All
it was
right,
like a little
paper
transfer, right?
is what we've just
And
learned.
but the actual image was of the club's badge, and it was on the pie.
Okay, that's
And I
yeah,
thought, this is
like
amazing.
yeah,
And that's really cheap to do, right? But that's the sort of thing that me as an idiot would be like, yeah, I'm eating a Reading pie. I love it.
110%. There are chocolates in the store here that have the Borussia Dortmund logo on them, and I buy them
Yeah,
more than I care to admit.
yeah, no, yeah, this is it, and cool stuff like I don't know, like the royal pie's too easy, but
No, yeah, oh yeah, I'm trying to
a little one is like if they were doing kebabs, you'd call it the
steak and
Kebe kebab.
Aylesbury. There we go. It's perfect.
Yeah, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, the Kebe kebab or
Oh
the
yes.
Sidwell sausage roll, or
Oh, actually, I'm not
who
sure I would
else
get
would you-
a Kebe kebab because you never know what you're going to get from 1 week to the
very true. But do you know what I mean? Something along those lines
Yeah, I like it.
would be amazing. Like when they had um, it was the West Berkshire Brewery, but now it's Renegade. They had the pop up bar with the 106 and the good old boy and
Yeah,
stuff. That felt, and it again, it might sound really tin pot, but it felt really special because it felt local.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what I want to see when I walk into the urinal is a fully functioning hand soap dispenser,
Yeah.
but also, and not piss all over the floor. But what I also want to see is like advertising that isn't just, as much as I love them, select car leasing. I want to see local things in those, like, and
Careful
even
what
if
you
it's
wish
on
for.
rotation.
You're about to see so many local prostate cancer adverts. You don't. Like, can I just get? I've got one more for you on the puns.
Yeah, go on.
We're going to open up a sandwich shop. It's going to be called La Fondra's Super Subs. How about that? That's it.
That's big.
Yeah,
That's big.
that's my.
We could do this all day. We could do this for Reading themed food, but
Yeah,
like
listeners,
just
please.
little
Yeah,
touches,
think about
just things that they thought about and going, okay, it's not just mum's hot dog or whatever. And I know that there's, Tim might be listening to this, I doubt he is, but if he is going, shut up, Ben, like there's image rights, there's branding, there's all this sort of stuff. But there are ways around that, I think, and it's just those little touches that go, yeah, do you know what? I'm in my stadium,
right.
I'm in my town, I'm in my area, and this feels like natural, So I think there's
Parky's Corner, right? We've already got names. Like there are names of Reading players.
Couples Corner, yeah, we have, yeah. But again, it doesn't.
Pucker Pies done. There we go.
Well, you can't have him now, can you? Because he's a bit of a.
Yeah. Oh, he's gone. Well, whatever. No, I don't mind Parkinson. He's fine.
Agree to disagree. But anyway,
right.
I mean, he's one of the best players I've ever seen in Reading Shire, but now he's just whatever.
All right.
I think there's so much there. I really do. So yeah, look, it's exciting. It really is. Like, I'm genuinely really happy about this change because I feel like there's going to be so much more option, and it's not going to be plain sailing, and we're not going to go, wow, all these seats are working suddenly. But like, there are so many things that can be done,
right?
That would just tweak things a little bit. Like the other thing I really like this season is the fact they've kind of reinvigorated the match day music because it was absolutely crap.
That's actually true. Yeah.
Rubbish. And now they release a playlist, and it's like, even if you don't like the songs, you know what you're listening to, you know what to expect, it's kind of rooted mainly in the local area. Obviously Amazon's influenced that massively, and rightly so, but there is still a connection there in terms of some of that music, and I think that's really, really important. And that connection, people going about different club and all the rest of it. Those little things just draw it back into, this is Reading Football Club.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it matters. Like, I find the Arsenal song a little bit cringe, but like, I think a lot of Arsenal fans like it, and they like that sense of community and all that kind of stuff. So like, whatever, that's football. Like, you laugh at the other team's fans, but then when your fans do the exact same, Super Reading chant, you think it's the best thing ever. So yeah. Yeah, it is exciting to be talking about off-pitch stuff because we've said a bunch of times we want to talk to people off the pitch this summer and kind of really focus on what it is that people do behind the scenes at a football club that maybe isn't seen. Because it is like I don't know, it's a huge organization, and I don't know if I've ever seen a football club that's got like what most staff members think is like an appropriate member of staff. Like, it always seems like everyone who works in a football club is doing about 3 different jobs at once. So I just think it'd be very interesting to hear. These are huge institutions in terms of revenue and more importantly, like public love that are being helmed by normally relatively small groups of people. So, yeah, I think it's always interesting to talk about what's going on off the pitch now that we don't have to worry about ownership.
True. One thing we do have to worry about is a bulging mailbag.
All right.
So we are going to have a very short break, and then we're going to get straight into it.
Keep up to date with all things Reading FC. Follow the Tilehurst End on Facebook and Twitter.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by ZCZ Films. Remember, if you want to get involved in sponsoring the show, drop us an email to thetilehurstend@gmail.com.
Right, welcome back to episode 419 of the Tilehurst End podcast. Apart from the obvious, the takeover, we've got a number of different bits and bobs. Bobbins is back from his hibernation.
Oh, good. Hey, Bobbins.
With so many new additions needed, do you think there's a danger of us not hitting the ground running as the new players bed in?
Yes.
Might we be set for a transitional season rather than one that pushes for playoffs promotion? Shoot.
No, because I think that if this season is going wrong by December, there will be big changes made in December going into the January transfer window. I think that this retained list and everything has shown a lot of trust in the current on-pitch staff, like we talked about earlier. But that trust is still trust being placed in them by a new owner, and all these kinds of things. And regardless of the situation right now, obviously, when you've got a new person that, didn't necessarily hire you, and I'm not sure Dai Young had anything to do with No Hung coming in, it's always going to be a little bit, you're never going to be fully feeling like you're fully secure in your job. Now, I think that Noel will still be here. I think that it would take quite a bad start to the season for Noel to be gone by December. I do mean a really poor, like flirting with the relegation zone start to the season. But yeah, I see where Bobbins is coming from. Like, I think that it's possible that, if we do end up bringing in a decent amount of players in the summer that don't bet in, then yeah, we could have a kind of slower start. We kind of saw that with Sellers 2 years ago, where it took a little bit, of time, although that was kind of down to the shape as well. I think we all agreed. At that particular time. But that said, we do keep talking about how we think the core is pretty strong, and it's not necessarily that we need to go and get a bunch of great players. We just need to complement these players with some depth. So I think that even if we sign a decent amount of players, this summer, I do think that we will still start next season. The lineup for the first game next season could still look relatively similar to how it looked against Barnsley in the last game of the season.
I think whilst we asked, we invited people to say what they thought about expectations. It's difficult because we don't know what the makeup of the squad's going to be. Mm-hmm. We also still don't know what the league looks like in terms of finalised teams, and there's still two teams to stay and come into the league. So I think obviously we'll do a full preview moving forward, but at the moment, just based on the available information, I think there would be an expectation that we're in and around the playoffs.
Yep.
I don't think that there would be general contentment if we were lower down the league. I don't think we'll be relegation candidates at all. But I just feel like, and this is always the danger when you have a kind of a good season as we've had, expectations raise a little bit. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how those new players, and there will be new players come in, bed in, but I think the positive is that they're going to want to get this done early so that they have a full pre-season to kind of, play how no one wants them to play. So, yeah. Lee Griffin, if we can retain squad members we've given contracts to, then gives us a good foundation to build on. Really need all signed. Squad was paper thin as it was. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, really. Like we said that earlier about numbers.
I do still think that they may just try to add that depth, unless I think that if they're going to splash cash, it may be to replace Chem Campbell. Because obviously he's not with the club, whether that be by getting Chem Campbell or by going and getting someone else, I don't know. That would probably be the only place and maybe striker, where I would expect them to splash some cash in the summer. Other than that, I kind of think it'll be more like bringing in like more serious depth that can actually fight, that can actually put pressure on every member of the starting lineup. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have a new player in the back four as well. When we start next season, well, obviously with Bindon on his way. I don't think Stickland's ready for 46 games, just yet. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that like clubs don't really do this that much anymore, so I could be completely wrong. But like I said, I wouldn't be super surprised if the goal this time is to complement what we have, build around the core, and then if it's really not working in December, then we start like bringing in a few extra players in January just to fill the void, and we go again next summer. I think that there's going to be a temptation to think, all right, let's get promoted like right away. I think for me, the goal is get promoted sometime in the next 3 years. I obviously had us down as going up this season, a little bit tongue in cheek, but also had a lot of belief in who we were as a club and as a squad. But that said, I totally see, like we were saying with Bobbins' point previously, that like it could take a little bit more time to gel this year. So yeah, I don't think too much disruption over the summer, and then maybe some stuff over January, but I could be wrong.
Nice to be in a situation where we might be able to sign players in January as well, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know that you kind of whatever you start with in August is what you set until.
We're not picking up free agent scraps from League Two and the League One.
Exactly right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Lee finally says, Lee says, Rob very transparent, seems to understand what's needed. He's got full confidence in him. Expectations depends on signings. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
you're right. We can't really look at that until we've got that squad sorted. Dorinio, what a name that is. Expectations, 12th place finish. Need some more physical strength in the squad. Yeah, I mean, I love a 12th place finish.
You love a 12th place finish?
Yeah, why not? Well, I wouldn't love it now, but generally it's like, yeah, it's cool.
Okay. What's cool about 12th? I'm confused. What's cool about 12th place? It's very Fulham, isn't it?
On the beach by March, mate. Happy days.
Well, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, you can just take it easy for the rest of the
yeah, exactly.
year. Yeah, so that's fair. Fair enough.
RFC Martyr, I like a lot of what Rob and Todd have to say.
To
be honest with you.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's just good to have an owner that communicates. I do think we're going to see a lot of trimming of costs, and I get the feeling he plans to reduce the size of the academy by taking out the younger age groups. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he's at with the academy. Like, obviously, there was a lot of, and it was scaremongering, to be honest, in terms of people going, oh, yeah, well, he's going to do this, going to do that, with little to no evidence from people that should know better, quite frankly. But, that unfortunately, that rumour has stuck around. And I think, there needs to be some sort of, I know he's kind of mentioned it in passing, but coming out and saying this is the plan for the academy.
Yeah.
And where it leaves staff and how easy or difficult or whatever Harrison Gilks's job will be, is going to be a big part of I say winning fans over, but reassuring fans that the academy is still going to be the jewel in this club's crown. So
yeah,
I think there needs to be some
hesitation and worry from the fan base, by the way, because even if that has been dispelled, sometimes, and there's been thoughts about it, you never know. And also, we have a very recent memory of the women's team, in the period where it looked like Coag was going to buy the team the first time, not being able to continue at the level that they were at. And so I don't know where that decision was made, where in the tree that decision was made. I understand, the situation we were in, why some people may have felt that decision needed to be made. But if you're a fan and you saw that happen to one of the things that you were proud of as part of your club, then I can understand, worries about another thing that you're proud of as part of your club. And yeah, I did think that the women's team was something I was proud of. I was proud that we had players who were playing for England that had come through our club. So yeah, I think that I can understand, with another jewel in the crown, as you say, why people are concerned about maybe losing it.
I think the other thing, and no one's asked about this, but where the women's team sit within the club right now, and what what resources are going to be made available to them. There's been quite a few sort of, I say, adverts, posts about development centres and bringing in new players and stuff, which I think is obviously much needed because I know I'm laughing, but they started the season with literally no players. They had to fill a numbers weakened team, let alone experience, and they've done remarkably well to stay in the league and to keep going with everything that they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting as to whether or not there is some sort of formal communication around, additional funding or additional support, or whatever, and where this ownership group is. So I think it's all up in the air at the moment in terms of that. And I think people, based on what might have happened, under the previous owner, but also with these guys at Wickham, they're very quick to just assume that might be the case here, and it could well not be. So, there are a number of things really that need to be answered around those youth teams, the academy, and also, where the women's teams sit in the overall, picture of the club, really.
Yeah.
Stephen Sawyers, we're going up via the playoffs. That's all. Curse broken, club back.
Love it. There we go. Was that one sent before the final game against Barnsley? He was just jumping on the bandwagon with me. By the way, listeners and readers of the Tilehurst End, I very much appreciate you nominating Joel Pereira as your player of the season. Thanks very much for that, for validating. After, I got the promotion one slightly wrong at the end of the season. I very much appreciate it.
I know, you nailed it. You obviously listened to it.
I literally, and you saw who was third, right, on that list. I was like, I wonder what podcast the people who answered this listened to, like the most engaged Tilehurst End fans, but like
especially when you got pelters back in the day for suggesting Joel Pereira should be player of the season.
Joel Pereira, Tyler Binden, Charlie Savage. That list was made for us. Just cracked me up when I saw that. But yeah, thank you for voting Joel Pereira as player of the season. Correct. I'll just remind you, 6 goals more than expected conceded for David Button last year, 9 goals extra not conceded by Joel Pereira this year. So that's a 15-goal swing that Joel Pereira engaged in. I love Tyler Binden. Man was not saving us 15 goals over the course of the season. Remarkable from Pereira this year.
Yeah, definitely. Up the ding. Expectations on which youngsters will stay with the first team and who will drop down to the under-21s.
That's a good question, actually.
It's a really good... I don't know. I think the positive staying in this league, as we've said, is that you get that EFL trophy vibe.
Yeah.
So I would like to think they're kind of pooling those players and going, look, you're going to play as many cup games as we possibly get, and that's your opportunity to kind of make the gateway to the league.
Because you can still send them out on loan in January once all those cup competitions are over, so they can get some. Like with Kamara, I almost feel like Kamara could do with a loan in League Two for a year. Like if he does sign that new, we've got an option, and maybe he's League Two for a year to see if he really kicks on. But I do think that, like, to a certain degree, that's a player that, while he isn't that flashy, he does a couple of little things that Noel likes. So he probably won't do that. But yeah, we can actually think about sending players on loan to develop again. Who do I think from the current team might drop down again? I wouldn't. It's a really good question. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing. I think it would be good to have Stickland just get as much game time as possible, and he's going to do that in the U21s, obviously. But it may be that he is the first centre back off the bench this year coming, so they might not want to do that. I do think that there would be value still in giving Garcia some time with those younger age groups, because I think that he got tired. I think the second half of the season was weaker for him than the first half of the season. So yeah, maybe giving him the younger guys for a little bit of the season would be good.
Are you, or not you, but are clubs still allowed to play overage players in the under-21s?
Yeah, every now and again. I know James Milner used to play in it, for ages until he was pretty old.
So I think having Yeardom in that setup will be positive for those young players.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
That's right. I do make a few a season. Yeah.
You do love a right back, and you do make good points when it comes to right backs. So that's the way. Appreciate it.
Jamie White's day of first new signing bingo. He says the 3rd of June. What's that? That's what are we now? The 23rd, 22nd.
We're on the 21st. It's Memorial Day. Monday is a
Oh, yeah.
holiday in the United States.
It is the 21st. God,
Yeah.
I thought it was the 22nd. Lost the day.
It's all right. Yeah, Monday
I
is a
think so.
holiday in the United States, so if the guy with the money is he's got a day off, maybe he'll get bored. Maybe he'll just be like, all right, let's pull out a signing. Let's go. Let's get it done. Yeah.
I don't think. Well, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I don't think they'll make any signings until they know who's staying.
Yeah,
Will
I
they?
agree. No, they won't. Let's say, but June 3rd's not a bad shout. But because I think that most players will want to know before June 30th, where they're going to be.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Not in terms of like not in terms of like exactly what club they're going to be at or whatever, but just like whether they're going to be at Reading next season. They're going to want to know that by the start of June, really. So they have that little bit of time to really search for a club while their contract runs down. So yeah, it's interesting.
Mark, the retain list was as expected, although I was surprised about Yids being offered a new deal, but would love him to lead us to promotion. I love the openness of the new ownership and believe Joe Jacobson will be a great asset. Top 10 finish again. I think top 10 is reasonable, isn't it? I don't think that's...
So. I think if we have another season, because the problem is it was a good season and we didn't get into the playoffs because the number that you needed was really high this year. So we could... we could feasibly have a worse season and make the playoffs next year. So it's tough. I do think top 10 would be fine if progression is being shown and if new players have come in and impressed. But yeah, like I say, for me, we want to be up and out of this league again in 3 seasons. And that's just like a 5-season. That's my 5-season timeline, basically, to get up and get back out of League One. Because I do worry that once you go past that sort of 5-season thing with the less amount of money, the less amount of exposure, all these kinds of things, you end up in that. It took Portsmouth a long time to get out of the hole. It's taken Bolton a very long time to get out. Charlton is still down here. I'd rather be like a club, Plymouth, is that a good example? No, not really. I don't know, but I want to be up and out of the league in the next 3 years.
Well, look, we'll see what happens. Normally we'd kind of fall straight into the preview.
Nothing to preview, nothing going on.
There's nothing at the moment to preview. Now we haven't had any. What do you think is going to come first? Right, so here's a kind of a mini preview.
Yeah, what do I think is going to come first?
Yeah, and you tell me what you think is going to come first. So, number 1, an actual signing of a human being.
Yeah, okay, of a human being. T-Lady.
Number 2, shirt release.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you. Shirt release and a new signing.
Number 3, a staffing, retained and release list.
Staffing, retained and release list. Oh, like for the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do they do that?
They might.
Okay.
Well, I mean, just generally, who's getting,
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And number 4, Rob and Todd and maybe Joe giving an official interview through the club's media department. I was going to say season tickets, but we know that there's information being released. Well, today because you'll be listening.
I was wondering where you have Pereira and Benge on that list more than anything, but I've forgotten the options now. Okay, so what's going to happen first? I retain list of coaches. I don't know if that even happens. I think
no, just staff in general. Do you think it's possible they go, oh yeah, this person's going, that person's going?
Maybe. I guess I don't know. I guess I've never really seen that before. Screw the tea lady, she's out. Oh, this person who works in marketing, awful performance this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the kit man renewed his contract. We've extended the option.
Right. I don't know. There was something else we can ask as well. I can't remember. I think it will be. We know season tickets come out today, or information around that. I think it will be the kits because I think they are. The ownership group are very keen on marketing and branding and stuff. So I think the minute they get them out, there's more money through the door, right?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, you want to get it right, and you want to get all your branding around it right. And like now the silly little like starting lineup graphics and all of those kinds of things, they all have to be like tuned to like work with the kit and stuff like that. So it depends how far along they are with it, with all of that kind of fun marketing stuff. But yeah, I think that they will sign a player like in June, because I think that they know that that's a thing that like fans have been waiting for a very long time. So yeah, I would like to think that that will be pretty high up on the list. But honestly, like getting one of Pereira and Mbenge done and announcing that and making a big deal out of it, I wouldn't be surprised if that's like one of the first things they go for, because it's an easy win.
Well, there you go. That is episode 419 of the Tilehurst podcast. Thank you very much to everybody for listening. It's coming in at just under a sweet, cool hour.
Yes.
So should keep you busy for the next hour.
I appreciate you guys having a smaller podcast this week. I have to literally leave the meditation room right this second, and I'm going straight to coach a game. So straight from one game to another. Here we go.
Is it a friendly, or is it like a proper game?
This is actually a rescheduled proper game that has had to become a friendly because of the rescheduling. There's been a terrible weather spring in Maine, unfortunately. So I've heard that you guys.
It's not still snowing, is it?
It's not still snowing. It's just raining, like just constantly. It's getting warm, but it's just raining. So it sucks. It's not what you want, but hey, what can you do? Go Seacoast. Let's go.
You have to roll with the punches. That's all you've got to do. We'll be back. Well, we will be back in some capacity.
I want to do like a proper season review.
Okay, we'll do like chat. We'll look at doing if what we've got planned doesn't come off for next week, then we'll do a season review. How about that?
That sounds good. Good. Nice.
We've submitted our own list of people we want to get on, so hopefully one of those will come off next week, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Hope you are enjoying the start of the off season, as Ross would say.
Yes.
Look after yourselves. Enjoy what you're doing, Ross, and
you as well.
We'll see you guys soon. Come on, you R's.